Welcome back to the Strawberry Corner NUFC podcast. Those tricky trees won, Eddie's Mighty Mags won. Newcastle win 4-3 on pens. Sean Longstaff, the hero, setting up a third-round tie against the Dons. I've wanted to say that for ages. Now known as AFC Wimbledon at Plough Lane. The first meeting since they rose like a phoenix in 2002. 22 years ago, that. It's mental, isn't it? Third-round ties will be played during the weeks commencing September the 16th and 23rd. As you can hear there, we're joined today by a man exactly half the height of new Forest keeper Carlos Miguel. Olly Scholes, how you doing, pal?
I am good, thanks.
Just the two of us today. Dean Harrison is suspended this evening. We caught him sending an email to Mark Goldbridge begging to be part of his podcast. We're not having that. So Dean's now on the transfer list for a very modest fee and fined 2 weeks' wages. He's now training with the kids a bit like Raheem Sterling. Weirdly, Dean's also got a tattoo of an AK-47 on his leg, so watch out. Right. Ollie, your reflections on that Forest game before we dig in, mate?
It was a hard watch, wasn't it? I think there was spells when we played really well. I think there was spells when we played really poorly. I think ball retention was an issue for a lot of the game, although I think Tonali improved that. I think we played well enough to get through, obviously, and that's ultimately what's important, isn't it?
Do you think there's too much analysis at the start of the season? Like, I don't know if you remember. Like, I remember playing, football on a weekend, and you do your pre-season, and then it would take you a few games just to get up the scratch. I feel like there's been just a little bit too much analysis about the performances. We're unbeaten. Obviously, it doesn't look great, but it'll come together, right? Eddie Howe is notoriously slow. It's starting seasons. You can see, shoots of positivity, mate, which we'll come to in the podcast. I'm not one that's worried here. Are you?
No, not really. I mean, obviously, I would like us to be more easy on the eye, a bit more aesthetically pleasing the way we play, but we know historically it comes, doesn't it? It's the last 2 seasons we've started quite slowly and we've really turned it around, and I think I'm not worried at all. I feel like there's been enough spells where we've played really well. We've played some good football. Some of the passages of play last night were really good. Sort of like the best of Newcastle, really, under Eddie Howe. It's just a matter of it'll take time, like you say.
That's what was really encouraging. There was parts of that game there which was great to see on the edge of your seats, and it's those 1-2 round the corner passes which I absolutely love. But mate, Forest, it's been notoriously a difficult place for us to go to. It's a good atmosphere there. They're a good set of fans, the Forest fans. I do like them. It's always been close between us two at the City Ground. And there was lots of changes in both teams as well. Which doesn't help for rhythm, but the best start ever to a game, right? A goal after 18 seconds.
Definitely, I mean, you cannot ask for better than that, really, can you? Unless it's like 17 seconds or something. But, a great start to the game, and I think maybe it's one of those sort of old adages, isn't it, where maybe we scored a little bit too early, and it just meant that we took our foot off the gas a little bit. It meant that Forest were chasing the game, which could have played into our hands, but it didn't seem to do that. It's just one of those things. I think, great time to score, some really good football played, and ultimately, like I said before, we're in the hat, and that's what matters. We're in the next round. Forest played well. They're no mugs, and I know I saw quite a lot of comments on social media about us playing their reserves and how that was concerning. But we had a lot of changes as well. We had someone who hasn't played football for 11 months in the middle of the park. We had Crafts playing centre half. We made a lot of changes ourselves, and so I'm not massively worried about it at all.
Yeah, 100%. What was really encouraging was before he went off was Joe Willock was looking really fierce, like a young Michael Johnson striding about the place. It was great to see again. We're massive Willock fans on this podcast.
Oh, huge, yeah.
But you mentioned, mate, the intricate play in the middle of the park was really encouraging. Although not there wasn't loads of times that happened, but the few times that it did was really encouraging. The goal, for example, Tonali through to Almiron, through to Isak. selfishly, I was hoping that Isak would slot that away. You know, I kind of want him to get off the mark as soon as possible. But the keeper parried to Willock, who was there to tap in. Ollie, my favourite part of that goal, you've got 5 players breaking a neck to get into the box. Love to see it. The determination by Tonali to get into the area for any scraps there, you could see what was on his mind. Yeah, but we'll get to the Tonali section a little bit later, mate. Unfortunately, though, Ollie, Willock, he was only on the pitch for 15 minutes. You know, a great start, picks up a daft thigh injury and needs replaced. Let's hope it's not a long one. You know, he's just an unlucky guy, isn't he?
He's just not having any luck at all, is he? I feel so sorry for him. He was obviously quite emotional when he left the pitch. I'm hoping that's just because it's, you know, frustration and that's as much as it is. You know, he came back onto the pitch. It's a positive sign in terms of how long he might be out for and what sort of an injury it is. If there was any doubt that it was a really serious injury, I don't think for a second he'd have stayed on the pitch. And the fact that he's come back on and tried to run through it, maybe suggested it wasn't that bad and that serious an injury. I mean, obviously we're taking precautions by taking him off anyway. But you get those niggles, don't you, when you come back from a long-term injury? You pick up those little niggles. And actually, when you've been out for so long and you feel something, it just feels worse in your head, doesn't it? And so hopefully it was a bit of that and not so much of a serious injury.
It's a real funny one, isn't it? You kind of think, I was thinking, is it down to, you know, match inactivity, you know, being out of the game for like prolonged periods of time? But I mean, the guy's training, he's had a full pre-season. Like, what's different between, you know, playing pre-season games to playing league games and then breaking down? Is it just a coincidence? It could be.
Could be, yeah. Or it could just be the fact that the like top flight games and cup games are much more intense, aren't they, than friendlies and training and things like that. And I think the way he plays very much. He drives, doesn't he? And he gets the ball and he runs with it, and he's very very intense in the way he plays. And I think, you know, it's possible he's just had his foot off the gas a little bit in pre-season, and this was him sort of stepping up, and he's just picked up a knock. You don't know, do you? That's the thing. You just have to hope it's not a long-term one.
That's it. I hope he gets back to playing pretty soon, and it's just a little niggle. Obviously, Bruno's rest is cut short, and he's thrown into the action. Probably hoping for a quiet night, which wasn't the case for him. But from that moment, Ollie, it felt a little bit ponderous until the second half. Tough game, you know. We mentioned the lacked rhythm, and then Forest equalised 5 minutes into the second half. Did you fear the worst when that happened? Did you think that, you know, that was going to be our downfall?
No, I didn't, to be honest. I mean, you know, the game plan goes out the window as such, doesn't it, really, when Willock goes off after 15 minutes. You know, you've trained all week thinking that's the team, and then within 15 minutes it's gone. It's almost sort of a similar situation to Shaw being sent off against Southampton. This is the game plan, this is who's playing, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're setting up. And all of a sudden, it's just, you've got to completely change it. So, we're slow out the traps in the second half. Conceding that goal was obviously a bad thing, wasn't it? But I never thought it was sort of the end of the game. I didn't think they were going to sort of get on top of us and start to. Well, I didn't think they were going to win. I wasn't too concerned. I did think it would go to penalties. I thought it was going to be one of those games where, I mean, both sides had a couple of chances. Anderson, sort of, I don't know if he was attempting to chip the keeper or whether he was putting it across to the back post or what, but, you know, that wasn't too far away. We had a couple of chances as well. Harvey Barnes dragging one wide after a really good move again as well. So, I don't know, I think for me, I just felt comfortable. I felt like we had enough to get back into control. And I felt like the bench as well, which is something that we haven't seen for almost a season, really. We had people on the bench who would come in and make a difference. So, I wasn't too worried about it. Obviously, it's not good. You don't want to see them equalised here, but I didn't ever feel like it was going to get away from us.
Yeah, for certain, mate. The equaliser, not something that we're known for, being poor at set plays or defending set plays. You know, a long throw in, which we didn't clear our lines, and Jota smashed it in the top corner. But I don't know about you, but the commentator on my coverage was going mad about it being an incredible strike. But that was a shank if ever I saw on that one.
he did seem to slice it a little bit, didn't he? But, you know, for me, the ball comes into the box, the swing comes into the box, and Joe Linton didn't deal with it perfectly, but he did get a head on it, and it's bounced perfectly, hasn't it? You couldn't ask for a better bounce, really, for if you were Jota, could you? And he's just hit it, and I think it's one of those things. It's, you know, I don't necessarily put it down to terrible defending as such. And I get your point about us not being particularly great about set pieces in how we defend them, but I don't necessarily think that was a terrible bit of defending. It was just Joe Linton didn't get enough on the header, and it's literally sat up for him. I mean, like, anyone would just love that to sit up for you, and it's just there to be smashed in it.
And as a keeper, Ollie, you just don't save those, do you? The ones that get smashed against the post.
No, you can't, can you? Not a chance.
No,
I
you
think I'd
don't.
probably struggle to save it was straight at us at the minute.
You mentioned though with Howe turning to the bench again, and it's a great point that, mate. You know, we weren't able to do that last season, and the bench has made a difference in every single game that we've played so far this season, which is another positive. So on 60 minutes, Gordon comes on, and then he's followed by Livramento and Longstaff, and all three of them made an impact, I feel. And the game swung into life for us. You know, we're kind of on the front foot for the remaining 30 minutes.
Yeah, definitely.
Chances.
That was definitely Gordon's best performance of the season so far. He's starting to look a little bit more himself. You know, you could see how happy he was at the end as well, which is something we haven't seen necessarily, is Gordon with a smile on his face. So that was really good to see. Very optimistic about it, how his season's going to go now. Then you had Longstaff as well, who his passing was so crisp. He was just so on it. He was running backwards and forwards. He was box to box. I just thought he was trying to break the lines as well, and I think he made a massive difference. And that's sort of the best of Sean Longstaff. That's what you get from him. And then in Livramento as well. Again, we had that conversation last week, didn't we, about the difference between Tino and Trippier. And I think he came on and he did everything that he hasn't been doing really in the last couple of games. So that was really good to see as well. You know, he was running. He's running so much more direct. He had a bit more purpose about what he was doing. I think it's just a confidence thing with a lot of them, and I think it's coming together, and it is getting there, and it's just a matter of, you know, we've got a really good squad now, I think, and you know, I had a bit of a conversation on Twitter the other couple of weeks ago about this, a couple of days ago, sorry, about this window, and I think, you know, getting Gay in, or getting a centre half in, and that would be it. I'm not going to complain about that. I think we've got a really good squad. Our squad is better than it has been. And we look like we've got a lot of the players back fit as well. So I think it's just confidence in a matter of time and a matter of, you know, match fitness as well. I saw lots of signs yesterday that made us really optimistic.
Yeah, it's a couple of things there, mate. I'm pleased you mentioned Tino. Kind of shows his mentality, right? Where I think he probably was a bit disappointed with his performance in the last game against Bournemouth, and to come in as a young lad and be able to turn that around instantly. You know, I thought he came on, did really well actually. And it was kind of the flip, right? I didn't think Trippier had his best game, and then Tino comes on and steps it up a little bit, and you know that's your squad, isn't it? That's what a squad's there for. You know, they complement each other. Maybe Trippier plays 60 minutes and he plays 30, and vice versa. That's good. That's what you want. You want competition.
Absolutely, aye.
Yeah,
I think it's funny though, to be honest. I mean, when you're talking about Trippier, you know, it just shows it's testament to the player really that, you know, he's banged out so many 8s and 9s out of 10s for us and for, well, his whole career really, that you really notice when he drops to a 6 or a 7. So, I mean, for me, yeah, they're both very different right backs, and I think that's a really good skill set to have, isn't it, for the squad?
Yeah, 100%. And I thought it was interesting that Barnes was on the right and Gordon was on the left. I think Howe's taking a look at something there.
I think he must have been. It was quite. I mean, they sort of swapped around a couple of times, didn't they, as well? I think he's obviously thinking, you know, there's a possibility we're not going to get this right midfielder. We need to try a few things. He wants to give Barnes more minutes. He wants to stick with Gordon. I personally think Gordon's more effective from the left, but then again, so is Harvey Barnes. But I think, you know, it'll just be having a look and seeing what happens, and it might be that I think I've got a feeling they're both going to start against Spurs, and I've got a feeling that it'll be, you know, they'll be switching around a little bit as well.
Yeah, 100%. Harvey Barnes isn't knocking on the door. He's bringing it down at this point, isn't he? It's kind of clear that he needs to start, and whether that's on the left or the right, or you know what, they're not trees either. Like you say, they can switch over within the game. That'll cause confusion for the opposition. But yeah, I agree, mate. I kind of feel like we'll see both of them now in last night. Probably just put the nail in the coffin on that one. So the match ended 1-1, and we do what we do now, winning pen shootouts. The pen themselves, mate, Joe Linton's, wasn't even that bad, was it? They just had the BFG in goal.
That's it. He hit it really well, didn't he? I mean, I'm just thinking about myself as a keeper. He really hit it, didn't he? And I think, you know, if I'm getting behind that, like it's going to hurt, isn't it? You know, the keeper dives the right way, and you put your penalty on target. There's very little you can do, isn't there? I mean, if you look at like Longstaff's penalty, for example, there's no, you know, the keeper dives left, he probably stops that, doesn't he? So it's just one of those things. It's a good penalty. It's well struck, and the keeper's just got it. So there's no what you can do. Just actually going back to Barnes though, when we're talking about Barnes and Gordon and stuff, I think, you know, I've mentioned this before about how underrated I think Barnes is, and you know, we've got those T-shirts coming out soon as well, haven't we? But I think, I mean, it was Dean, wasn't it, in the group who mentioned that there was a stat on Sky Sports about Barnes being, since the start of last season, nobody's made more assists than him coming off the bench. And when you consider how long he was injured for, that's quite incredible. And that's, I mean, I just thought he was talking about Newcastle, but it was Premier League, wasn't it? So, I mean, that shows you how effective he can be and how much of a creator he is, really. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see him get some game time.
Yeah, you know what? He's a really effective wide player, isn't he? And he's got a certain skill set, and if you play to that skill set, he's going to score goals or assist. I seen another stat that said that he's either scored or assisted every 94 minutes so far in his career, which is that's an incredible stat, that for a wide man. It just shows the work that he did at Leicester, right? I think it goes unnoticed. And Ollie, I don't want to get hyperbolic about it, but like, if Barnes is going to produce a season and he looks fit, and if he gets some game time and scores goals and assists and stuff, he's going to be knocking on that England door, isn't he?
Well, you'd think so, like, although you probably only get 3 minutes in an international friendly or something, wouldn't you?
Yeah, 100%. It'll be interesting, actually. I think Lee Carsley's due to announce his squad today, so it'll be interesting to see if Gordon's in there. I'd imagine he would be.
Yeah, I thought so with the Carsley factor, wouldn't you?
Yeah, 100%. On the other side of things, though, a one-ye's pen, mate. How do you do that? It's harder to knock it that far over the bar than to hit the target, isn't it?
You know, it's rugby standard, isn't it? That, I mean, it's still travelling now, isn't it? It was terrible. It's probably the worst penalty I've ever seen, I think. Apart from that Peter Devine one in Nick Hancock's Football Nightmares. I can't
do you know what it is? I've got it noted here. You know those like own goals and gaffes in Nick Hancock's Football? Like, that pen belongs on one of those videos, the VHSs. Love those, man. Love those videos. But yeah, mate, jubilant scenes at the end. Fans serenading Tonali hugging the front row. Just a massive loving, because Ollie, Sandro Tonali's an absolute beast, isn't he?
You know, we're talking about hyperbole before as well, like, and I'm trying really hard not to say this, but I sort of, when I watch him play, and especially after 11 months out, I think he might be better than Bruno, you know. I mean, don't get us wrong, Bruno's class, but I think he's a step up, isn't he? He's just like, it was like he'd never been away. You know, or maybe he's been a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but he was just outstanding for someone who's been banned, for someone who hasn't been allowed to play. Absolutely outstanding performance. Do
you know what it is? I kind of echo your sentiment there about Tonali being better than Bruno, right? But it's obviously tongue-in-cheek, like I say. It's a bit early, and they complement each other is what I'm getting at. The different players, like what Bruno does, Tonali doesn't do, and vice versa. Bruno is all about, he's winning those free kicks. He's not as quick as Tonali. Tonali looks fierce when he runs, He looks like a muscle. Bruno is clever, shadows the ball and protects the ball, and they're just different players, mate. And what I missed and what I realised watching Tonali last night, like again, just to go over the top on one performance, I just love his football intelligence, like his quick passes. He's someone that doesn't need 3 or 4 touches, is he, Ollie? He just needs that one touch because he already scanned the space.
Definitely, aye, and I think that will make a massive difference to, especially when we've got people like Gordon and Barnes and Isak, and finding those gaps is going to be like much more different than it has been. And I think he was winning balls on the edge of the box in the air as well. He's deceptively strong. He's deceptively sort of. I think he's taller than he looks as well. He must be. But yeah, really good to see him back, and really good to see such a high level performance from him. Really, in quite emotional scenes as well at the end, wasn't it? He was very obviously relieved and happy, and it was just an emotional night for him and for the club, really.
Yeah, for a first game back after 10 months, phenomenal. Like a good night's work. Thank you very much. Back to business now. Yeah, it was one of those, wasn't it?
That's it, aye.
Yeah.
Link to Liverpool tomorrow, probably.
That's it, mate. Hopefully he hasn't got a minimum fee clause in his contract, which is like it runs between July and August for 100 million. But never mind. But yeah, I think him and Bruno can complement each other really well. It's really interesting when you think back to last season of why Howe decided to bring in Tonali so they can, either or can play 6 or 8, and they can switch in game, and it makes sense, right? I've never been one that just wants a number 6. I know Dean mentioned it in the text message, who just sits in front of the back 4. Like for me, that's kind of counterproductive, and the style of football Newcastle play, it's all action, isn't it? When we're really going for it and everyone's in sync, mate.
Well, that's it, and you've got players there now. You've got 3 players in the middle who can play 6, but can also do other things, can't you? And I think that's essential to the way we play. So, I mean, we were talking yesterday about the middle 3 for Spurs and what have you. And I think, for me, Tonali, Longstaff and Bruno could be that potential 3, and then that frees Joelinton up, who's not having the best of times at the minute in the centre. Frees him up for one of the wings as well, doesn't it? So, there's lots of different options that we've got now. And we've also got Miley coming back as well. So, I think we're looking quite good.
Options is the word, isn't it? That's the thing, mate. We've got different combinations. Someone's not playing well, they can come out, recover, and someone can go in. And the level's all pretty much the same, So yeah, that's really exciting, mate. Chances to rest players when appropriate. Yeah, mate, get him in the team for Spurs at the weekend, in my opinion.
I think he has to start, aye.
Yeah, it's one of those, and it'd be really interesting. It'd be it'd be Howe backing Tonali, putting him in the team for Sunday. Yeah, and we'll come to it in a bit, mate. But there's a question mark as to whether Longstaff comes in for Joelinton, right?
I think so, yeah.
We'll
see. I mean, whoever we pick is gonna do their best and is gonna be excellent on that. I think Tonali starting though, the lift that would give the crowd as well from the kick off. I don't know if War Flags have got something planned as well for him or what, but I think the lift and the atmosphere in the ground will be incredible if he's starting. I mean, we will anyway, but especially if he's starting.
Yeah, 100%. So in the hat for the next round, we've pulled out Wimbledon, as we've mentioned, away. Good draw, albeit being away from home. You fancy going to that one, Ollie?
Aye, I'll be there, aye. Aye, it's a good draw. You know me, I love a new ground, so I'll be ticking that one off on my app. But yeah, another away game. It's frustrating, isn't it? But I mean, for me, I couldn't enjoy that draw at all last night. It was just, it's ridiculous. Those 6 teams being drawn out first, 4 of them at home, and they've got to be separated and stuff. It was just like I was expecting one of them to play us, like for us to be away to one of them. And then when that didn't happen, I thought, well, we'll get someone at home then, but it'll be one of those 2. And then just before our ball got drawn out, I thought, well, that's it. It's us v Chelsea, one way or another. So it was awful, but I think we've got a decent draw. I would have liked the home game, but I think the new ground is ideal for me. So that'll be a big tick in the box.
Yeah, mate.
And the pin badge, now.
Get that on your pin board, your cork board. Chance to catch up with Gomez. Maybe you can catch up with him down there. He might get a ticket.
See what I do.
Just on that, so got my sent us a news article, right, from what's Football 365, and it's about the game last night. And this writer, I can't find his name. He's right. The way that he's wrote it, he's saying that it didn't happen for Tonali last night, and that it was a disappointing evening for him. And I don't know if he's just taking a piss.
I just put that in the bin, ignore it. Really, like, innit? It's not worth. It's just not worth it, is it?
Nah. Journalism has gone down the drain in recent years, hasn't it? Positives, so Olly. So let's get to those, mate. So we've mentioned Tonali, massive positive, getting him back. Still unbeaten. We're still unbeaten. We haven't lost so far this season, and we go forward to Spurs at the weekend, full of confidence, hopefully, from that match. Longstaff, the hero, obviously, scoring that pen, coming on with a good performance, and hopefully that gives him a real lift. He's been integral there. Tino, you mentioned, in Barnes off the bench again, both positives. Anything I've missed there? Anything you want to add?
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think the thing for Longstaff is that he's literally been ever present, really, for so long. He hasn't had a chance to get a break, and now he's got some competition, and two, he's got some time to have a bit of a rest as well. So I think that'll only improve him, and I think he's an essential sort of cog in the team, if you like.
Yeah, good to see, mate. He's been essential for us in the Carabao Cup, hasn't he?
Aye.
When you think back in previous rounds and in previous years, he's been good. I'm pleased for him, really pleased for him.
Aye, delighted, aye.
Spot on, mate. Let's move forward to the weekend. Next up in the Premier League, we've got Spurs on Sunday afternoon. They've had the same start as us, 4 points from 2. They drew with Leicester in the opening game. However, they did batter them, and it took a Jamie Vardy-inspired goal to be picked back. And then they swept aside a poor Everton team 4-0 at home at the weekend. But that's not really a mean feat nowadays, is it? Did you catch any of those highlights? Or
little bits, but not a massive amount. I mean, to be honest, I don't know. I think Spurs under I was going to call him Poch there. Spurs under Postecoglou sort of hit and miss, aren't they? And I think I'm just hoping that we'll get them on an off day. But yeah, I'm not looking too much into the Everton result, to be honest. I think from what I saw, they played fairly well. But also I am conscious of the fact that Everton seem to be on a bit of a free fall at the minute. So yeah, we'll see. Just hopefully it's the wrong Spurs that turn up in the right Newcastle.
Yeah, I was going to say there, what are you expecting them to, or how are you expecting them to set up? They don't like it up here. Do you think that's going to play on their minds a little bit, or do you think Ange doesn't really buy that, does he? He said last season, that was an old Spurs team, it won't affect us, and then we're back at them. Do you think he's going to come up here? He's going to come up here at the weekend and have a different point of view?
Well, I don't know. I mean, as much as he says that, I think you can't help it. It's just in you, isn't it? It's the memories of being battered, worrying about. I mean, Van der Ven's going to be worrying about Isaac, isn't he, and things like that. I just don't think you can avoid that, really, can you? It's whether you've got the confidence to know you can do something about it. It's still in the back of your mind, isn't it? So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm fairly optimistic, and I've seen enough in the last 3 games to think that if we put everything together, then we've got a really good chance of beating Spurs. And these are the games that we need to be winning, really, aren't they? So, yeah, let's see.
That's a great point. You win your home games, draw your away games, and then you finish the season well, don't you? I'm a little concerned that we can't turn in an average performance here to get anything against Spurs. I feel like we need to be really at it, and perhaps these 3 games have just kind of got us to the point where we can deliver that performance. Do you think?
Hopefully, I mean, yeah. It's a very good habit to be in, isn't it? Playing poorly and knocking out wins and draws. So we've won at home, we've drawn away. That's like the perfect start, really. Well, it's not the perfect start, is it? Because that would be 2 wins, but it's a really promising start. And I think, even if we don't play particularly well, I think we've got enough to grind out a result. It just depends on who turns up and who doesn't for both sides, really. So I'm optimistic. I think I've seen enough, like I said. I think Howe's talked in the past a lot about how the crowd makes a big difference as well. And I think the atmosphere with Tonali being back is going to be electric, and that's going to sort of play a massive part and be hopefully the 12th man. So,
Yeah, you'd think this game's is absolutely perfect for that, right? I think the atmosphere is going to be electric, and hopefully that'll see us through. And yeah, like we say, hopefully Tonali starts, and him and Bruno can pull the strings, and Isak gets a couple of goals, and we'll get the predictions in a minute.
Aye.
In terms of the teammate, some question marks now, right? Obviously Harvey Barnes, we mentioned battering on the door. There's a question mark for over Trippier and Tino. So let's just start from there, mate. The Trippier versus Tino debate. Who are you selecting there?
I'm starting Trippier, to be honest, but I've got a feeling Howe might start with Livramento. I don't know. It depends on whether there's any chance of Trippier leaving as well, doesn't it? So I don't know, but I'd be starting Trippier.
Yeah. I think I tend to agree, mate. I think Trippier might start. I think in these games he's vital, right? Set pieces and things like that, especially at home with the crowd bouncing. I think he can make a real difference.
Yeah.
And then we've got the Harvey Barnes versus Gordon or Murphy scenario. Murphy, he's not been involved since the Bournemouth game. Do you feel like he drops to the bench?
I think he does, yeah. Again, it's one of those things, isn't it? Where last time he scored 2 goals, didn't he? And does that play a part in his selection or whatever? But for me, it's got to be Barnes and Gordon. We've got to try it, and we've got to see what happens, and we've got to get at them. And I think those two are more than capable of doing that.
If Murphy starts, are you disappointed? What's your thoughts? Do you think that? Are you then kind of aghast at what Howe's doing, or do you just trust the process?
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's any side we could put out where I would be disappointed. I think it's Howe sees them training every week. Howe knows how he wants to set up against Spurs and what's going to be best for doing that. So for me, I think I'd be disappointed that Barnes wasn't starting, but I'd be just as pleased that Murphy was. So I think it's one of those, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one, mate, Lewis Hall didn't have his best of games. We've talked a few games now where he concedes possession quite a lot, but in positive scenarios, you can see what he's doing. I think the most worrying thing was his delivery was quite poor last night, hitting the first man and his balls into the box. Do you think Howe sticks with Hall at home, or do you think that Kelly comes in?
I think he's going to stick with Hall. I suppose it depends, doesn't it? Because again, it's about how he wants to set up against Spurs, and is Solanke going to be fit? I don't know. I haven't heard any latest. I know he was injured, wasn't he? But I don't know how long that's for. Is he going to want to have pace at the back? Is he going to want to have? He might play Lloyd Kelly left back and Dan Burn in the middle, and do what he did last season, where Trippier bombs forward and Kelly and Burn move across and we play sort of effectively 3 at the back. I'm not concerned about Hall. My only concern really is he doesn't seem to cut out a lot of crosses. I've noticed in a couple of games now this season where I don't know whether he's just not tight enough or whether he's a little bit behind play or whether he hasn't cut out many crosses, and I suppose that's the main thing for me with Hall. But I'm really optimistic about his future. I'm really optimistic about how much talent he's got, really, and I'm confident that if he does play, it's he's going to have a good performance. So I think I would probably stick with Hall, but again, it just depends on what Howe's thinking.
Yeah, hard to predict what Howe's thinking, right? That's the beauty of this team selection. And then
I think Hall needs a little bit of a run of games as well, doesn't he? He's been in and out of the squad for various reasons last season. But I think he needs a run of games, and that'll sort of bring him on a lot.
100%. I think these kind of up and down performances are due to that. The consistency of being in the team will really help him. It's difficult being starting one game and then being out on the bench next game. You need a run of games, and hopefully he gets that. And then the midfield, Ollie, question mark over Joe Linton. Well, something I didn't think I would say, after the Southampton game, but do you need to take him out just to give him a little bit of a breather, or maybe just to put a little bit of a rocket up his arse?
I'm not against the idea of giving him a bit of a breather, a bit of a like you say, a bit of a rocket. I don't think it'll happen. I wouldn't see it happening, but I'm not against it. I think, Longstaff, Tonali and Bruno would be my starting three. I think people forget as well that Joelinton was out for a long time last season, wasn't he? So, he's another one whose sort of match fitness isn't probably quite as sharp as it should be. We all know how good he can be, so I'm not concerned, but I just think maybe, try something a little bit different in midfield, see what it looks like. But, I think I'm 99% sure he's going to start anyway, and I'll be getting behind him regardless. So
Yeah, 100%. It's a great shout about his fitness as well. People forget he was missing the majority of last season, and it might just be catching up with him.
yeah,
But he's another one. It'll come. The more games he plays. The reason I think he might start as well is I think James Maddison's going to need some.
love and attention.
Yeah, he's going to need a bit of attention, mate. So I think Joelinton might be applied there, because we know how dangerous he can be. Right, Ollie. Predictions. What are you thinking here? Goals and scorers, mate.
Right, I'm going to say 2-0 to Newcastle. I'm going to say Isak, and I'm going to say Harvey Barnes if he starts. If he doesn't start, I'm still probably going to say Harvey Barnes.
Yeah, good show, mate. I'm going to say 2-1. I think we'll score first. I think it'll be Gordon. I think he'll score, and I think Spurs will equalise, and then I think Newcastle will get a winner through Isak, and that'll be a great result. I think Dean's, of his messages, he said that Spurs are going to win 4-0. So, yeah, he didn't say that, but I know he'll be annoyed that I said that.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to, just a bit of interest really, I'm going to write down people's scores, and I'm going to come up with like a point system, and we'll see how we'll get on through the season, predictions, and see who wins.
Good shout. Right, let's leave that there, mate. Thanks for your time. You can get us on the socials, on X at strawberry_NUFC, on Threads at strawberry_NUFC, on Instagram's the same. We've kept it really simple for you guys, at strawberry_NUFC. Bluesky is at strawberry_NUFC, no underscore. Feel free to email us as well, strawberrycornerpod@gmail.com, and we'll see you next time. How are you, the lads?